Hi guys, it's Tara and welcome back for another fabulous card making tutorial today. We are going to make some rainbow Valentines and I'm super stoked about it. So I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and don't forget the notification bell so that you get notified every single time we are going to get crafty together. So we are starting today with some distress inks and some distress watercolor cardstock. So this cardstock has two different sides. One is textured and one is smooth. For today's purposes, I'm going to use the smooth side. I tend to like that one just a little bit better. So I'm going to be doing two card bases that have to line up as closely as I can possibly get them. So normally I wouldn't necessarily care about where I put my paper and my stencil and all that, but because I'm going to try to duplicate this like exactly, I'm making sure that I really use that grid on my mat there to line up that watercolor paper and then mark with my tape exactly how I'm tilting this stencil because I want it to look exactly the same the next time that I use it. So I'm going to tape everything down and then I am going to mask off the stripe that I want to ink right now. So you could totally use this stencil like all at once, but I'm going to do each little stripe absolutely in a different color. So I want to do one at a time. So I'm masking off all the other stripes. So I left this one in here, guys, because I wanted to show you a little tip that I learned the hard way. So you can see I masked it off, but look what I did, y'all. I didn't mask it enough, and I got a red goober up in the corner of my cardstock. Now, I opted to just restart. Take two, right? There's not a whole lot of mistakes that I feel like you can't just like roll with in crafting because that's part of the fun, right? But I do need this whole card base for my design, so I was like, dang it, I need to restart this one. I did save that paper though, because I can totally use that other stripe for something different. So anywho, I thought I'd leave that in there because y'all, you're going to make mistakes. It's totally fine. Like, live and learn, right? So I'm going to do the next stripe now, but you'll notice in my rainbow, I'm actually grabbing, instead of the second color, the third color, because I am going to be using this stencil in kind of a funky way this time. I am going to be moving the stencil later so that I actually get my rainbows squished right next to each other instead of with that cute little gap in between. So I am skipping a color and then putting the next one in. You do want to be careful. I learned this the hard way too, you guys. You'll see it when I do the green here in a hot minute. So you can see now I'm moving that stencil and then lining it up so that now the like blocked out stencil parts are over my colors, and now I can put those in between colors in. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So also this tape, okay, like I'm blocking this out, but this tape has ink on it and it's still wet. So watch this right here. This orange gets all gushied in with my bright green that I'm using here, and it was kind of a bummer. So I had to bust out a little bit of a darker green to go over it, and it totally worked. See, this is what I'm talking about, you guys. There's very few mistakes you can't just fix. But just be careful of your tape. You might have to get some clean tape or flip it around or something so that those colors don't smear together. So I did all my colors of the rainbow. I'm going to list the colors that I use down below in the supplies. So if you're really interested in those colors, then definitely check that out. So the first one is a rainbow. And then my idea was to contrast rainbow with black and white. So for the second quote unquote rainbow, you can see how I use my tape guides there to just like line that little stencil up exactly the same as I had it before. I picked out my three like gray and black tones that I have in Distress Ink. So I'm starting with pumice stone, and then I'm going to move into hickory smoke, and then I'm going to move into black soot. Now, I need 6 rainbow stripes, but I only have 3 colors. So what I decided to do was do this first stripe with a really light hand. And then I'm going to go in and essentially do a second stripe in exactly the same 3 colors, but I'm going to push really hard. So it's going to give me 6 different colors. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, hindsight, 2020, all that jazz. The pumice stone is definitely more of a warm gray. It's got those warmer tones, like the more brown tones, and the other 2 are definitely more cool grays. I would have preferred to keep them all in the same kind of family, but I just didn't even really think about it, and I only had these 3 grays anyway, so it is what it is. It still looks fine, but you can see here I'm pushing harder with that pumice stone, so now you get some contrast between the first stripe and the second stripe, and you can see it even more when I pull the stencil up because the stencil is adding to some of the color. So this idea for this card, you guys, I talk about all the time the fact that I do not pre-plan my cards. Like legit, I very rarely have a plan when I go into card making. I usually have like a certain supply or stamp set or something that I want to try playing with. But beyond that, I usually have very little concept. So you can see how those variation in pushing like really helped make different colors in that gray. This card, however, this idea like came to me. I can't even remember how I thought of it. I have no idea, you guys. I thought about starting like a Valentine's Day card series with these cards, but you know what? I decided that was a commitment I did not know if I could stick to. So I opted for just making these cards, and hopefully I'll make more Valentines, but I'm not going to make a series out of it. But anyway, this idea did come to me, and I had been sitting on this idea for like over a week. So I was really excited to make these cards, and they turned out pretty darn close to what I wanted them to. So I'm super stoked about that. So I'm adding splatters. I used some white picket fence distress paint and some black soot distress paint. And now I'm just squishing the, I think it's the candy apple red. So I put black and white on the rainbow, and then I put white and red on the gray. It kind of looks like blood spatters, you guys. Can we get that morbid in card making? I think that I fix it later, but I first put that on there and I was like, this might not work the way I wanted it to. Whatever. You roll with it. It totally ended up working out. So now I'm going to do some die cutting. So I have this really cute die set from Mama Elephant that has a little scallopy border and then this inside rectangle. And then this little heart is actually from like in My Favorite Things, like one of their blueprint packages that like, so, I mean, I just found a heart in my stash, y'all. And I'm going to cut 3 hearts out of this rainbow. And I want to make sure that I get the colors. So here's the trick with this card design, you guys. Everything has to line up as close as possible. Now, it's not going to be exact, but it needs to be pretty darn close. So I am using my first panels that I cut out of the rainbow on the black and white like a stencil. So I popped that die cut right into the frame that was left over after I cut the first one. So I am using the first one as my stencil. So this is really handy. I will tell you though that this paper is really thick because it's watercolor paper. So it didn't cut through both layers like it probably would if I'd been using regular cardstock. So you can see I'm going to pop that heart right in there and run it through. And then what I have to kind of do, even though I ran it through twice, is pull the heart off and then stick it in the little bit of groove that's already there and then run it through on its own. So I did that for all 3 hearts so that both panels essentially look the same. Right? So now it's time to build our cards. So I have my backgrounds all ready, and I'm going to take a couple of card bases. These are like pre-made card bases. I have no clue where I got them, but I figured I might as well use them. And then this was something I added into my design. I did not intend to use the little frames that got left over, but they were there and they were cute. And I was like, why the heck not? So I'm going to glue down those little frames, use my ATG gun, and then I use the scallop border of that die set to cut some coordinating cardstock just that I had left over in my stash. I have zero clue what colors these are beyond red and black, y'all. But I'm sure you've got some, you know, leftover. We all have the scraps, right? Just like hanging out. You can barely see the little rainbow on the outside. I thought that was fun. Just adds that extra little bit of contrast, right? So now for this one on the red, I'm going to take the black and the rainbow. No, I'm doing the black and white. Guys, I'm all confused. So basically I'm contrasting everything. So the rainbow goes with the black and white, and the black and white goes with the rainbow. So the frame matches the little hearts. So I put some foam squares inside the little heart cutouts, and now I'm using the heart cutouts from the opposite panel to just pop up a little bit inside that rainbow. So from the front, you can't really tell, like it looks kind of the same, except you get this contrast of the color in the black and white, but then from the side, you've got that dimension. So stinking fun, you guys. I found this stamp set in my stash. This is a Simon Says stamp set, and it's called Kind Flowers, and it had these really fun, just super skinny, amazing sayings about kindness, and I thought they kind of fit in with Valentine's Day. There's "You're my kind of person," and "I kind of adore you" a lot, which is stinking cute. And I trimmed these down to super tiny. You can see in my cardstock there, I also cut out some little hearts that I had a random die. I think it's a Paper Smooches die. I could be totally wrong though. I will try to find it for you guys and link it. But I had this little hearts die, so I cut out some of those, and I just have them chilling, waiting for later. So now I have my sentiment strips, and I am going to add a little bit of a flare on the end there. And then here's a cool trick. I wanted to leave this in to show you guys. So my little foam dots, you get all this extra like around the foam dots, but it's still sticky foam, y'all. So I cut up the extra and used it on the back of these little sentiment strips so that I can pop those up on the front of my cards also. I'm totally tongue-tied. So that's just going to sit right at the top of my little rainbow, and I'll trim off the excess that pokes off the card base. And then the last step that I did was I took some of those little tiny hearts that I cut out, and I'm putting those on the front just to kind of scatter around the rainbow. And as you can see, I'm using the red on the black and white rainbow to match the blood splatter in the background. It doesn't look as much like blood spatter anymore, right? Tell me I'm right, because I can't give this card to anybody if it looks like Dexter made it. But anyway, so I'm just figuring out where I want some of those hearts. I love the little like outline hearts that this die makes, and they're so teensy. It's absolutely adorable. To adhere these, I'm using my Quickie glue pen and my tweezers, and I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the background and sticking these little teeny tiny things on the front. And I did the same process on the front of the other card, but with little black hearts. And then the last thing I do, you guys, is I take my Spectrum Noir sparkly pen. What the heck is that thing called? I can't remember. And I put some sparkle on the little hearts of both cards. And that's going to complete the cards today, you guys. So fun. 2 cards in one fell swoop because you're using like those backgrounds extra. You can see the sparkle and shine on there. Absolutely think these are adorable, you guys. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe. Don't forget your notification bell because you want to know whenever I'm putting videos up, right? If you love this one, go ahead and click on one of these videos. Here's something else for you guys to watch. If you hit my face right here, that will subscribe you to the channel. As always, I love hanging out with you guys. Your comments and your likes are so appreciated. You guys are amazing, and I will catch you next time. Bye.